Those are my Valorant patch notes rundown for 8.0. I'm going to briefly go over the Outlaw on the maps, but then we're going to look at the agents properly because I haven't really talked about them yet, but I have talked about the Outlaw on the maps. So, and I will have another video out on Lotus, I think. So first we're going to look at like the weapon updates, which is the Outlaw being added. And the TLDR of the Outlaw is basically, it's not really a method breaking or method defining, but it does change the second and third round. And arguably in Valorant, the most defined 3 rounds in the game are the first 3 rounds. In a half, because pistol either full save or like force buy or like full buy, and then third round is like the bonus or maybe a force buy or maybe it's like a full buy, and it's a full buy for the enemy team, right? So these are honestly pretty defined rounds. Like a lot of people play them fairly similarly, especially in solo queue. Everyone plays it basically the same. So this gun does mix up those, like at least the second and third round get mixed up pretty well by this gun existing. I just don't think it's going to be bigger outside of that. And honestly, that's still quite impactful. So, you know, I think the gun itself is impactful to the meta. I just don't think it's meta defining or meta breaking. So, but I do think it's quite cool. It also it's also competing, as I've said already in my other video. It's competing with the Bulldog and it's competing with the Guardian. That makes it overall probably a worse gun, just because those guns are quite good in general for their price points. And while this gun does have its like higher highs, being higher credits as well, it definitely does have worse lows than those guns. It's less of a rounded gun than those 2 guns are. So it does actually kind of fall off there a tiny bit. So when you actually are buying guns like later on in the game, it makes way more sense to have those sort of more rounded guns like the Bulldog and the Guardian than it does to have this. But it does depend obviously on the round. Like if you need a high risk weapon that can give you a high reward, then this is probably the gun you want to go for in that price range. Next is Deadlock. So I haven't really gone over these changes on video, but I have seen them. And because I've played since these changes, so I do kind of know what's going on. So sonic sensors are recallable, and their distance for pickup has been increased from 12 meters to 27 meters. They've decreased the time to concuss once triggered from 1 second to 0.5 seconds. Decreased time for enemies to destroy sonic sensor once triggered has gone from 0.65 seconds to 0.5 seconds. And Deadlock and our allies can now hear the sonic sensor audio slightly when they're in the area effect. So this just stops your teammates randomly sitting in the areas when they think they're like not going to get concussed by it. But no, they will know if they're going to get concussed or not based on the audio. So that's pretty good. Not really that useful, but it's pretty good. This honestly should have always been the case, like recallable in the round, just because honestly Cypher could already do it, and there were times when it was nice to recall your trip to place it somewhere else. And I think the sonic sensors honestly are more so like that, where you want to be able to replace them somewhere else later on in the round, just because they have the area effect stun. Compared to like the trip, which has a bit less of an effect in my opinion than what the sonic sensors would if you were able to do this. So they are actually a bit better, I think, from this. I also think the time to concuss is quite brutal as well. Like if you place it in a good position, the enemy is not going to be able to shoot it in time. 0.5 seconds is really fast. I think it's like maybe a bit like deceptively fast, especially because you've got to consider like the pressure that person is probably under when they trigger it. So because they have to be making sound, right? And usually when they're making sound, they're going to be like fighting or they're going to be rotating somewhere. But usually the rotations, I mean, it doesn't make much sense for rotations actually with this thing, but it makes sense that they're going to be fighting someone. So therefore they're going to be under a lot of pressure. Then fighting someone and then shooting this in 0.5 seconds, quite hard. So I do think this is quite a good change for Deadlock. So for barrier mesh, we increase the max length of barrier walls to allow it to provide much larger spaces than is possible with comparable utility, and make it more reliable at fully blocking chokes when deployed quickly. Yeah, so this was one of the biggest things about Deadlock that made her difficult. So I don't actually think this is actually like a strength change. I think this is just like a quality of life almost change, where it does have like meaningful implications. Where one of this, like for instance, like when people talk about Sova, and one of the strongest things about Sova is being able to throw your darts like on the fly, right? Instead of having lineups for everything, being able to throw like strong darts on the fly, a recon or shocks, was one of the parts that made a good Sova compared to a bad Sova. And I think that was very similar to Deadlock, where I think you really need to have mastery over the barrier mesh and being able to throw it freely to really make use of it. And I think this kind of just bridges the gap a bit, where you need to know a bit less, or you need to be a bit less good to be actually getting the value out of the barrier mesh. So I actually did test this to check as well if some of my like lineups still worked and that kind of stuff. And a lot of my lineups still work. A lot of them have actually got easier. So I had one on Pearl, which obviously is not a standard map anymore, or not in a standard rotation. But one of the lineups I had was a really difficult one to line up. You needed to get it exactly right so it would stop both sides from being able to be passed through. But now with the new barrier mesh, that one works 100% of the time. Basically, I don't even have to have a proper lineup for it. I can just throw it. So honestly, this is actually quite a big change for Deadlock specifically, and for her to be easier to play. But I don't think it changes the meta a whole lot. I don't think Deadlock's going to become like super meta now. But I do think that she's going to find places where she's played. As I'm saying this right now, last night I saw Zeppa playing it on Icebox, and I thought he looked decent. I didn't think he looked good. I think there is definitely better agents to play. But honestly, I can see this agent being better than Sage. But I'm also a Sage hater, so maybe not. I can see it being better than Sage in a lot of circumstances. No. So yeah, I do think that the agent has a lot of potential to like make it into the meta. No, at least very slightly in like certain situations and certain maps. And I think Icebox is maybe one of them after watching Zeppa play it, but I could be wrong. Killjoy, the amount of maybe not exactly in pro, but in solo queue I can definitely see someone playing Killjoy now. Not Killjoy, Deadlock now in Icebox. I might even do it. Okay, Killjoy. The amount of coverage on Killjoy's turret outshines other defensive recon tools when paired with the turret's other strengths. Honestly, that is an overstatement, an understatement. Such as its autonomous detection and long-ranged vision. Reducing its vision cone should push Killjoy to make clearer choices about what area of the map her turret will cover, while the turret's updated visuals should aid you in quickly understanding what areas it will protect. Honestly, reading is difficult when you're recording a video or something. Okay, turret vision radius reduced from 180 degrees to 100 degrees. So this is a massive change. There are plenty of places. I'm only thinking about Haven actually. I can only think about Haven for Killjoy. That would be big for Haven Killjoy, but I don't know about her other maps. 100% like if there's like actually like massive implications to this where you have to change the whole setup. I know in Haven there's a couple setups you wouldn't be able to do anymore. But overall, like I don't think it changes. I mean, it changes a lot actually. It changes a lot more on attack potentially on like some really open areas where if you just misplace the turret a tiny bit, it's not going to see everything. Or if like the turret, sometimes the turret might not even see everything in that open space because it's got more than because you can't see everything in front of it like it could before. So honestly, yeah, I think this is actually quite a good change, quite a balanced change. Really happy that it's getting nerfed. Added representation of the turret's vision cone on with Killjoy's minimap. Yeah, that's good. Added that is actually a requirement now, considering it's not just in front of it anymore. Added VFX and updated the turret's animations to communicate the turret's vision, new vision radius. So yeah, overall, I think that's pretty good. I think the turret is one of the more broken pieces of utility in the game. I don't think it was even that close. I think the turret was really up there. It was like one of the best things in the game. It just gave you so much info. It had other uses for it as well. Pressure in 1v1s, had everything you needed it to do. It would do it. So having this taken down to 100 degrees, basically just like skill checks Killjoys, I think, a tiny bit with like what they need to do, and also like what they want. Like they have to actually try to choose the right thing to do. They can't maybe do everything that they used to. With the 180 degrees, might be a bit more limited in their play, and that usually means that the better players will be able to like conquer that limit or cover the weakness. But the worst Killjoys won't be able to do as much there. So yeah, overall I think that's a pretty good change. Map updates, doors refractor. Refactor, sorry. We have upgraded the tech behind our interactable doors in order to polish some of the interactions with other agent abilities. Is that all that says? I don't get like anything to do with it, like any text spot. So this is the Icebox changes. I've already gone over these, so I won't go over them again. I've already gone over the Lotus changes, so I won't go over them again. And that might be the end of the video. No, Mo's updates. I'm not gonna bother with that. Oh, the Sheriff loader has a light shield now. Makes sense. Map rotation, all modes. Yeah, so the current rotation is this. That's fine. I already knew that. Premier updates. I might actually look at these in gameplay system. Oh my god. Okay. No, I'm okay with that stuff. I might actually do a video on this. Maybe potentially. It's quite long-winded. Maybe it's actually quite good. I also do have some opinions on the sound of the game. and things like that. So maybe I should actually make a video on that individually. But Premier updates, team captain role, we've had a secondary management role. Your roster's called team captain, so they can do whatever they want to do if the team owner isn't there or whatever. Standings, you can now view standings in other divisions and for previous stages of Premier using the drop-down menus. Divisions, you can now see which division you were seeded into before you play your first match. Qualification, the threshold to qualify for this stage is back to standard 675 Premier score, which I can't quite remember. It's been a while since I played Premier. Is that like what, 3 wins? Is that 6 wins? I actually don't. Is that 7 wins? I don't actually know. I remember. Do you get 75 for a win? You get 150 for a win, right? There's like what? You get 75 for a loss. So it's like 4 wins, 1 loss. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. 4 wins, 1 loss. I think that's probably what it is. We've updated our zones to support the VCT Challenge League EMEA zone updates. Challengers League path to promotion into EMEA. Okay, so this is actually quite big, probably for people that are really good at the game. So that's quite important if you're one of those people. But yeah, that's it for the video. Maybe a bit more of a casual video compared to my normal ones, I think, with some of the stuff at the end especially. But yeah, hopefully you kind of learn some things about the new patch and kind of some of the stuff around balancing. But yeah, I do expect to see Killjoy still. I expect to see more Deadlock than I'm usually seeing. I do think overall she was underrated. But I do think she was really bad still. She was still one of the worst agents in the game. But I think she was a bit more underrated than I think people like. They just did not really value her as much as I think they should have done. But yeah, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next one.